Martin Luther King Jr. is one of the most inspiring figures in the history of America and the world. His life was dedicated to fighting for justice, equality, and the rights of all people, especially African Americans. His leadership in the civil rights movement changed the course of American history and left an indelible mark on the world. The message of hope, love, and nonviolence that he preached continues to inspire people of all races, ethnicities, and backgrounds to stand up against injustice. Born on January 15, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia, Martin Luther King Jr. grew up during a time when racial segregation and discrimination were deeply entrenched in American society. Black Americans were subjected to systematic oppression, denied basic human rights, and faced violence and hatred every day. Yet Martin Luther King Jr. refused to accept this unjust reality. He believed that people of all races could live together in harmony, and that the power of love and nonviolence could overcome hatred and inequality. King's journey to becoming a leader of the civil rights movement was not easy. He faced immense opposition from white supremacists, political leaders, and even some members of his own community. Yet he remained steadfast in his commitment to nonviolence and peaceful protest. He believed that the only way to bring about meaningful change was through love and understanding, not through violence or hatred. The impact of Martin Luther King Jr. on American society cannot be overstated. His leadership was instrumental in the success of key events like the Montgomery bus boycott, the Birmingham campaign, and the March on Washington. Through these peaceful protests, King and other civil rights activists were able to draw national attention to the injustices that African Americans were facing. These protests led to significant changes in the law, including the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. King's most famous speech, the "I Have a Dream" speech, delivered during the March on Washington on August 28, 1963, remains one of the most powerful and inspiring speeches in American history. In it, King spoke of his vision for a world where people of all races could live together in peace and harmony. He envisioned a world where the color of a person's skin would no longer determine their worth, and where everyone would be judged by the content of their character. His dream was not just for African Americans, but for all people, regardless of race, religion, or background. The message of King's speech continues to resonate today. In a world still plagued by racial inequality, injustice, and hatred, his words serve as a reminder that change is possible and that we all have a responsibility to fight for justice. King's message of hope and nonviolence is as relevant today as it was during the civil rights movement. His life teaches us that even in the face of adversity, we must continue to work towards a better future for all people. One of the most remarkable aspects of Martin Luther King Jr.'s leadership was his unwavering commitment to nonviolence. In a time when many people believed that violence was necessary to bring about change, King chose to follow the principles of Mahatma Gandhi, who had successfully used nonviolent resistance to achieve independence for India. King understood that violence would only perpetuate the cycle of hatred and division, and he believed that the most powerful weapon against injustice was love. This belief led him to organize peaceful protests, marches, and sit-ins, all of which aimed to draw attention to the injustices that African Americans were facing without resorting to violence. King's commitment to nonviolence was not just a political strategy. It was a core belief that guided his life. He understood that love, empathy, and understanding were the keys to overcoming hatred and prejudice. He often said that darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. This philosophy of nonviolence and love became the foundation for the civil rights movement and inspired countless others to join the struggle for justice. Martin Luther King Jr. also understood that the fight for civil rights was not just about changing laws or policies, it was about changing hearts and minds. He recognized that true equality could not be achieved unless people learned to see each other as equals, regardless of their race. His belief in the inherent dignity and worth of every human being led him to advocate for social justice, not only for African Americans, but for all marginalized communities. He spoke out against poverty, economic inequality, and the Vietnam War, believing that these issues were all interconnected. He understood that true justice meant addressing all forms of oppression, whether racial, economic, or social. King's vision of a just and equal society was not just a dream, it was a call to action.